Well, thank you everybody for today. Thank you very much for turning up. You know, it's been well worth the 4-hour drive, let me tell you. Thanks to Andrew we chatted to last year, wasn't it? Brilliant. Well, yeah. So basically, I was on Series 12. The very first episode. I was very excited. It was my first stunt job ever, and I was like, wow, you know, I get the call, and it was my very first credit on a television show as a stunt performer. And I got to meet lots of other stunt performers, some sadly not here anymore, and it led to more work. As you know, in the business, it's all about contacts. And if I didn't do London's Burning, I'd not got the bill. I never got to do the films and the TV shows I've done. So it's been a great ride, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm still doing it. Hashtag Grandad Stunts, check me out. So I'm still, and my grandchildren just like call me silly Grandad, so that's where the hashtag Grandad Stunts came from. So I blame them for that one. Yeah, fire away, please.
So what sort of stunts did you do in London's Burning? Did you fall out of trees and things?
Yeah. No, I was initially, I was down just because when you're a stunt person, you're learning, you go down on set and watch people like Alf Join, and all the other stunt coordinators of the day, which were like absolutely amazing. Jeffrey Wee Davis, he was a brilliant stunt performer and coordinator. And I got invited along to help out and set stuff up and move crash mats and be very excited with car crashes and explosions. And then Clyde Curtis, great stunt man. You might have seen him in For Your Eyes Only, he's in that. He rang me and said, would you like to come and double the actor? So I said, yeah, that'd be brilliant, it's my first job. And my first paid job, should I say, for that one. The rest of it I was just doing it because I wanted to. And I got down on the day. If you remember the episode with the van that comes up the street, turns over, and the petrol leaks out, we had a couple of runs at that. But the first take, we broke the drive shaft, and we had to repair it. Billy Riley Jr. was driving the van, and I think Valentino Mazzetti was doing the cars. I got to sit in the car and play, but I didn't get to do that bit. I was absolutely gutted. You're doing the stunt later at the night out with a big explosion. And I'd met a lovely lady by the name of Charlie Brooks, who went on to do EastEnders. So yeah, it was Janine. Yeah, it was her first job, and we got on rather well, and it was really nice. I just watched her go on from strength to strength. But yeah, if I hadn't done London's Burning, I'd have never met everybody else, and my career, I'd probably been doing, you know, other exciting stuff, but not film and television.
Wow.
Well, no, I've had great fun. You know, I played in Batman, which was great, and Aquaman, and I've been Monsters, I've been jumping off buildings this year, I've been Scotland, and it's been fab. Yeah, it's a fun ride, you never know what you're going to do, where you're going to be, and that's what I like about it. Plus, you know, I love being unemployed, not. So, day to day, I'm a radio presenter as well as a stuntman, so that's my job, but yeah.
Great.
Hello, my name's Claudia, and I played Diana Bulstrode, who was Andrew Casimir's boss's daughter. She also had an affair with Andrew Casimir, not Andrew, with Nick, the station officer chief, I think his title was. Anyhow, I wasn't in it for very long. I shouldn't think many of you know why I'm at school. But anyway, it is very lovely to be here, and my experience in London's Burning was very good. People were lovely. I wish I had more connection with the fire station, if I'm really honest. I think being one of the girlfriends is much less rewarding than being a fire officer. So in another life, I'll come back as a fire officer. In fact, I was just talking to two firemen outside in the street, and in fact, maybe in another life I'll just be a fireman, because that seems like a very worthwhile thing to do. I'm going to leave you to somebody else, because honestly there are many, many people here to speak to. But it's lovely to see you all, and thank you very much for coming.
Right, I'm Dean Harris, and I played Bev, who was the pub landlord, nightclub owner, and I fancied Carol Harrison, as did Bev. But anyway, that's and I haven't seen it since. Oh my heart bleeds. And what can I say about it? I mean, I did 3 scenes in 2 episodes. Why am I here? And this is a question and answer. I don't know what questions anybody can ask me that is relevant to what I did. I did look a lot different then. I was pretty shaven, had short hair, wore a suit, and but I think I'm suffering now from a late life crisis, not a midlife crisis, and I've gone back to my hippiedom. I was a teenager in the 60s, all beads and peace, love and brown rice and all that. I've gone back to all of that now. I'm still up for grabs. I haven't done any work in a while, but I'm quite happy with the work I've done. And if anyone, that's really, what else can I tell you? I don't know. Yeah, I'm getting a bit senile these days. But if anyone has got any questions at all, it will be my total pleasure to try and ask them. But if not, I'm going to say thank you very much indeed and good night. But here I am. No, oh, deafened by the silence. Bless your hearts, thank you. Lovely to see you all. So many of your faces are familiar from, Misty Moon and places like that. Seen a couple of you on the Sweeney reunion. Another of my gosh, another time, another planet, another life, another person that was back in 1975. What's that? That's 50 years! I remember it like yesterday. Anyway. I'm going to stop talking now, and my next question to you is, can I go now?
I played Fireman Maddox in Series 2 of London's Burning, and there was a storyline set at another fire station, and I think that the London Fire Brigade and LWT wanted to encourage more diversity into the London Fire Brigade, you know, to just increase inclusion and get more people of colour and women and general disabilities. So basically the storyline that I was in was, I was a young fireman. I was actually 18 when I played the part, and the storyline was basically, I was a young firefighter, and they were playing little tricks on me, and they gave me a nickname of Monkey Nuts, which, you know, was, back in those days, those were the sort of things that went on in the police and the fire service and in the army. And anyway, it all culminated in the initiation ceremony where they tied me onto a ladder, and then they got called out and left me underwater, tied up to a ladder until I got rescued by one of the regular characters. And in the storyline, they were then called to a disciplinary, which we filmed next door, and they were found guilty and kicked out of the force. Now, we shot that in 1988, what I remember was when I went to the audition, it was one of those things. I went to the audition and I came out and I said to my mum, Mum, I don't think I've got this, because they didn't really say much to me. I did my scene and they sort of said, all right, thank you. So I said, Mum, I don't think they had much. They didn't ask me much, so I don't think I got it. And then I eventually got the part, and so I did 5 episodes, but I was only actually in 4 episodes, and it all built up in this storyline. The episodes which were not the industrial tribunal or the sacking were done at Old Kent Road fire station. So we did all the scenes at Old Kent Road fire station. And then I didn't remember, I was racking my brains to where we shot the scene with the sort of disciplinary, and I was told it was next door, which kind of made sense. And I remember that the actor that played the commissioner, I've forgotten his name, but I'd actually worked with him a couple of times. He was a really good lad, and so that put me at ease because I knew him. And when I did the scene, when they asked me, you know, why didn't you complain and whatever, I remember I was thinking about the death of my granddad, to put myself into the emotional state, to basically reply with the right kind of tone to do the scene. It was really good. As I say, I don't really remember so much apart from it being a really warm environment with everybody being really friendly. I remember I came on to the set. I went onto the bus one day, and Glenn Murphy said, "Oh, hey, Val, come over here." And there was Terry Marsh, the boxer, at the back of the bus with Glenn Murphy, and everybody was really friendly. I just remember having a really good time from it. And it seems strange, just all these years, to come back. Andrew's doing a great service to keep the memory and to raise this money for charity. I'm still in the business. I work as a producer, producing films. We just finished a feature film at Meridian Studios, at Troubadour Studios in Meridian Water. So I stayed in the business, which is not easy. Oh wow, what great theme music! What great theme music! Oh, thank you for that background music.
How do you get the attention back, Sam?
Oh, right. So those are my recollections. Does anybody have any questions?
How was the scene filmed where you was underwater? Was there a lot of folk?
Good question. Yeah, so what happened actually was that they built the tank and they put an underwater camera to film up from the tank. And they tied me to a ladder. So we did the scene, they tied me to the ladder. But then what they did was they lowered the ladder so it was just my face and shoulders submerged in the water, and they held it for 5 seconds. So the ladder was kind of like going up and down with me. So we filmed that, and then there was a stunt guy who got tied up.
Wasn't me.
And got actually dropped into the water. So I didn't get dropped into the water, and I know that some of the main characters had to do the firefighter training and stuff like that. I didn't do any of that. So they got a stunt guy. They got a stunt guy to actually get dropped into the water, and that's how they filmed that scene. Thank you.
I'm Katerina, and I played Ariadne, one of the fire chief's bits. We had many of them. 2 are in this room. Bitter rivals. Yes, so basically, I thought I was only going to do 1 episode. I was having a little contretemps with Ross at the end of an episode that had a party in it, and he was trying to hit on, I think it was a niece of mine, and I went over and gave him a piece of my mind, which was great fun, and it was all improvised. They basically had one tiny word, and then they said, just go, and I did. and we had a little sort of, I think that we went on for ages, obviously it was cut a little bit. But from that point, I thought that was it. And then a little while later, they ring me up and say, oh, we're bringing Ariadne back. Do you want to come back? I said, do I want to come back? Of course I do. I'm always an out-of-work actress going to say no to a film, you know, to an episode or two. It turned out to be about, I think it was 19 or 20 episodes in the end, just a little bit every now and then, which was great fun to do, especially the trip to Cyprus. Actually, that was the first time I had ever been to Cyprus, and my family is actually from Cyprus, from Famagusta, which is occupied territory. And I remember saying to Andrew Casanea, I said, right, when we get to Cyprus, I'm going to put on a balaclava and I'm going to go to the border. And he looked at me and he went, I wouldn't do that if I were. Because they've got machine guns along the border. I went, no, I think a change of plan. I might do that, stick around the hotel instead. So I never did get to the border, but years later when I went back to visit, they were actually allowing us Greek Cypriots to cross the border to see where our original homeland was. So yeah, but that visit to Cyprus was interesting. We went up the hill in a donkey van. It had donkeys in it, so you can imagine the smell. Anyway, we got to this wonderful little village called Arsos. No jokes, please. And there were these lovely old fellows sitting outside a cafe, as the Greeks do, playing with their sort of little backgammon sets. And one of them looked up at me and went, "Can I have one of your cigarettes?" In Greek, of course, because I used to smoke Samaritz in those days, and they were very fancy with a gold band, and he'd never seen one before. So I gave him one of those. And then he turned round and offered me a ring in a box and asked me to marry him. Apparently, they used to do this quite often with any strange woman going through the village. I then learned later that these three brothers were, shall we say, slightly affected, and they were looked after by the state. But they were such darlings, and just sort of thought, well, you know, if I was going to marry anyone, why not? In a nice house up on the mountains in Cyprus. Yeah, that was kind of fun, except that I did get sunstroke running up and down a hill about several times while they were trying to time a car going past. And I thought, this is madness, it's the middle of the day. And I did actually did get sunstroke. Thank you so much for that. Apart from Cyprus, the rest of it was filmed in England, on dry land, except for the shower scene. Yeah, that was fun. And what can I say? It was great. It was good fun. Andrew and I shot a scene in a church where, weirdly enough, we had both been baptized. And it's a very famous Greek church in Euston Road, near Euston Road. And we both went returning to the scene of the crime. That was funny. And I was very new to filming. I mostly do theatre. And there was a scene we did in the church. And I didn't realise, I'd forgotten where the camera was, because I wasn't really very used to doing camera work. And they filmed the back of my head throughout that entire scene. And I'm sitting there looking at Andrew going, why has he got such a little glint in his eye? Something going on here. And after we finished the scene, everybody clapped and said, that was great, we got the back of your head. Can we do that again with you facing the camera, please? And I was like, oh no, I did really, really screwed up. But anyway, they thought it was very funny, so what can I say? I was glad to be of amusement to the crew. They probably got fed up of having their fingers burnt, as it were, and having something to laugh at. So there you go.
Yes, well, I must say, I was in one scene, in one episode, and I was saying to everyone it was in 1990, but it must have been in 89, series 3, I believe. And I played a policeman who got called to a park because some groom had got his head stuck in the railings on a stag night. And I'm spending the whole night trying to like turn him upside down and put butter behind his ears and trying to get him out. Shot in Southwark Park, sort of 1 in the morning. So my biggest memory was sitting on the bus and watching, I think it was a semi-final of an FA Cup or a round of that Oldham was playing in. So that must have been April, I suppose. But really, I don't have that many memories of the beginning or the end or whatever. But obviously, most people know me for playing Rifleman Harrison Sharp. But people do still recognise it from London's Burning, which is amazing. Yeah, really, I guess one scene, London's Burning, I can't really drag this out anymore. But it was fun. Everyone was really nice. It was on location, so I didn't get to go on any fire stations or be anywhere near any fire engines or police cars. But it was in the middle of the night in Southwark Park, I must say, and I lived in West London, so it was like I wasn't used to coming down south, down below the river. But I must say it's good memories and it sticks out. Anyone have a question? I probably don't. But any question about anything at all? No.
What would you say to somebody who hasn't seen the program before? Because my other half said you've never seen it. I'm trying to get.
Never seen London's Burning?
Well, yeah, you've never seen an episode at all.
Of London's Burning?
Yeah, of London's Burning.
I would say get on your telly, get on YouTube and watch it. It was an iconic series. I mean, I don't really remember any other series set in the fire station, you know, firemen. There's loads of cop shows. There's only one fireman show, right? London's Burning. Yeah. So yeah, go London's Burning, yeah! But it's really nice to see this little community of London's Burning actors. It's really great. I do Sharp, and there isn't really a community unless I do it, unless I get in touch with them. They don't really gather like this, so it's really special. Well done, Andrew. It's for a great cause, so thank you for all coming today, and thank you.
I played Mason in, I think people here would know better than I do, I think about 5 episodes of London's Burning in the mid-90s. And I wasn't with the firefighters, I was with Billy Ray, John Alford, and his girlfriend, because I was the con man. I asked Billy, my friend, to loan me a fire brigade's fireman's uniform, and then I went around, as you do, conning people, going around to people's places, going through pretending I'm a fireman, looking at their fire alarms, or asking for their setting. I was basically a baddie, yeah. So I was a baddie. In fact, I remember the first. So Mason, and it's weird because Paul Knight, the producer, then asked me to play Mason in Thief Takers, but another Mason entirely. I think it was Dave Mason in Thief Takers, and I played Samantha Bond's husband in that. But back in my very first scene of London's Burning, I was knocking on the door of an old, a lovely old girl, and saying to her, "You've got your fire alarms all out of date, love, and I've got to come and check your meters and stuff." And then wanted to go in and basically take some stuff off her. But I got found out because she sort of looked through the letterbox, "Get away from here!" But that was the very first scene I did on London's Burning, and I lost my throat, lost my voice again. So the second assistant director said, "We've got to get his throat back." It was really gruff like that, and I said, "It's a bit sore." So she went. It was about as it is, like sort of 7:30 in the morning, and she went and got some brandy for me, and I was gargling brandy and drinking it. And she wants some more brandy. I mean, that wouldn't happen now at all. And there'd be like health and safety and so. Are you allergic? I said, if people say to me now, "Have you got the allergies?" I go, "Look, I'm a boomer. We haven't got allergies as boomers, have we? We don't have allergies. No, we just get on with it." Yeah, none of that. We just get on with it. We're old school. And in those days, the actors, we all sort of, unlike the regulars who are doing this series for, all the series, a lot of you people, Michael here, a lot of us jobbing actors, we know each other because we meet each other on auditions. There were far fewer of us because we had to be equity members then, so it wasn't open to anyone else. So we meet each other at auditions, for commercials, for the bill, for various things, and we, luckily at that time, us Londoners were in vogue. A bit rough, bit London. There's a lot of stuff written for us. The Crime Month, if you remember those on London Weekend, I said London's Burning, bills and all that. So we had a lot of work. And it's very different now. I'm still doing it now. So yeah, still hanging in there, but Yeah, it was a great experience being with London's Burning, and I look at it now and think, wow, that is like iconic. You took it for granted then, because there's a lot of great shows like Soldier Soldiers I was in, and various programs, they're all good. But you look back now, and it's a completely... Yeah, I know, that's been signing on, that's been exit music. But they're really, really good programs. I don't think we'll ever see the likes of those again, so... And I'd like to reiterate Andrew and all the team for thank you for keeping this community going.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Can you tell us who you played and your experience of working on London's Burning,
I
please?
shall indeed. I was Nancy Ray, I was Billy Ray's mum, and I absolutely loved it. But there's a story that goes before Nancy Ray. Jack Rosenthal, I'd recently been in a film with him called The Knowledge, where I was the lead girl. And he rang me and said, I'm writing this pilot about London firemen. It's going to be called London's Burning, and I want you to play the lead firewoman. And I said, oh, you know, that sounds good. I said, unfortunately, Jack, I've just joined the police force for real. And I'm training at Hendon at the moment. And he went, what? I said, I've left acting and I've now become a police officer. Anyway, I didn't get the part. Fast forward many years, and I got beaten up on duty, got badly injured, so I came out on a medical pension. And I got cast by Corinne Rodriguez as Billy Ray's mum. Yeah. So it came full circle, but I was too old to play the firewoman. So I played Billy Ray's mum instead. It was a real lovely experience. As many of you have said before, you know, the people that have been on this here stage before me, the firemen in it, the characters in it, were really, really friendly and made me very welcome. I don't know whether many of you know that the actual pub that was used in London's Burning was a working pub. The beer kegs did work. And it was, I think I've got this right, Michael, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but it was one of the firemen or one of the crew that had the licence for that pub. He ran it, you know, because you had to have a licence there to run a pub, and he held it. I can't remember which one it was. Sorry?
Sam Kellis.
Was it? Thank you. Some of you people know more about it than I do. I mean, it's amazing. Did you say it was your dad?
No.
Oh, sorry. I wish. Whoa. Anyway, so we used to meet up there after filming. We used to meet up in the pub. And I used to have a couple of drinks with all the firemen and had a really good time. It was lovely playing John Alford's mum. I know he's been in trouble a lot lately, and that is really sad. And some of you have asked me questions about it, and that's why I'm mentioning it now. But I knew John from a little boy at drama school. We studied at the same drama school, which is the Anna Scher Theatre in Islington. With the likes of Linda Robson and Pauline Quirk and my sister Gillian, Nuala Conwell, you know, loads of us, and Johnny Alford. So I knew him from a little boy. So to be playing his mum was an absolute joy and pleasure. We had a lovely time. But sadly he fell into bad times, and I won't mention that anymore. But I had a fabulous time playing it, playing Nancy Ray. It was good fun. Obviously they didn't need me anymore once John got into trouble, so I came out of that and went on to Bad Girls and a few other things, and I'm now in Panto playing the Good Fairy. So I don't suppose there's any questions. I'm quite happy to step down.
Which career did you prefer, acting or the police?
Very good question. I actually preferred the police force. I really did enjoy being a copper. I went up in...
Why did you prefer the police?
Well, I went up into the CID, and I wasn't a CID officer, but I went up into the office and dealt with lots of murders and rapes and abductions. Wow. And I think when you're finding the perpetrators of these terrible crimes, it's with great satisfaction.
Yeah.
And I really,
changes.
yeah, I really did enjoy it. This was back in the 80s and 90s when people respected the police a bit more. They, our generation do, but sadly they don't anymore. But I won't bleat on about the police force because that's not what I'm here for. But yeah, I really did like the police force more, but then went back into acting and back into London's Burning, and that's what brings me here today.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I played Beatty in London's Burning, and I was George's sister. He was the big sort of, the big kind of firefighter who started right from the beginning. And Beatty was rather Lou-like. I had 6 kids in the first, so I did the first 3 series. I was from episode 3, I think, to episode 6, series 6. I had about 6 children, very low life. My costumes were all from the charity shop, and I just had to. People said to me, "Did you put your voice on?" Well, this was the voice that I used. It was quite appropriate and just got very, very loud. I had a wonderful time. Fred Walder played my husband Cyril, who was a little bit of a ducker dealer and diver. George was fabulous, and they got rid of me and the family because I think George got married, and then obviously his sister was no longer wanted. But they brought me back in a couple of years later, and I ended up with only 1 child, which was, I think, the son of the makeup artist, because they were sort of running out of money a bit, with all the cost of the pyrotechnics. So I had my 1 son, and I started to run a sex shop, which was very good fun. It was, one of those stories. Yeah, I know. It was great fun, and obviously George was very despairing. My husband had left me, but he came back. And then there was that fatal day when you get the script, you go in and you're going in for costume fitting, and you look through what you're doing, and there was the inevitable fire. Now, when you were in a fire, that meant bye-bye. Basically, that's how they got rid of you. So you sort of, you see the fire and you go, and you kind of flick through, but luckily I came out the other side. But sometimes you don't. And there was, I think I was working with Ben Ockaway, George obviously all the time, Cyril all the time. And when we had the fire, like whenever there was a fire, I was in the fire station most of the time. But just the camaraderie I had. What was weird, I'd done a lot of, I'd done quite a bit of feminist theatre a little bit before then. And it was all this kind of, men are not supportive and all that. Well, sometimes it was actually quite not supportive, as you like to think. And you went into this kind of arena of all these big strapping geezers, and they were just the most supportive, wonderful. I don't know if you found this, Kim. The most supportive bunch of blokes. Everything, they'd praise you, they were supportive, they'd make sure you were looked after. I had an absolutely fabulous time. And I left, I think a new producer took over, and I think the whole thing kind of changed. It went quite different. But I have to say my experience was quite remarkable, and I had a wonderful time. And any questions?
Do you still run the sex shop?
I'm not making as much money as I did, so I had to give it up, yes. Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming.
There's a question here.
Oh, sorry?
Have you ever been on any other sets where you've experienced the same camaraderie?
Yeah, I mean, look, actors are great, to be honest. They're very supporting. Birds of a Feather was something I did like regular, and obviously that was a lot of women, and that was very supportive. It's just that there is this sort of myth that I think sometimes when you're with a lot of, if you're going to be with a lot of men, because it was mainly men. There was, Kim played parts, I played a part. There were wives, there were mums, there were sisters. But you kind of led to expect, I think, that it's not going to be a kind of such a good time. And that was what I think, from coming from playing all this kind of, different stuff to landing in such a supportive environment with all men was just fantastic. I just adored them, and when everyone says to me, "Oh, darling, what was it like?" and you didn't have all the sisters behind you, I say, well, thank for that, because they were absolutely wonderful, So, any more questions? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Andrew, for doing all this, absolutely fantastic. And thank you very much. And
I started off on Series 1 of London's Burning on the camera crew in 1988, and then I went all the way through to 1998. So I was on the show full-time for 10 years. I was on the first 5 series on the camera crew, and then on Series 6 I changed across to the scripts department and became the story editor, and I then storylined the series up to Series 10, and then from Series 7 I started writing the scripts, and I wrote 30 episodes of it after that. So I'm a bit of an expert. So ask me questions. But yes, as Kim said, it was a very friendly show. I don't know if you remember, Kim, but I also wrote A Murder in Mind that you did with...
I did with Dennis Waterman.
Yeah. So that followed on, but it was the same producer, Paul Knight. Yeah. And I think all of us who were involved in the show would pay tribute to Paul, because he was the father of the whole thing. He gave me my break to write, because I was a junior camera assistant, and I went to see him and said, I want to write on this, and he said, yeah, well, and that was that when it happened. So he was an old school producer. We don't have the like of that at all now. And he lived and breathed this show. And I think that all of us kind of loved him in a way, because he was, he's very tough. He wasn't a pushover by any means, but he made it happen. And the fact that the same people, perhaps not so much on the cast, but certainly on the crew, went right the way through the full 10 years is a tribute to him, because he made it like a family. And as you said, that was, as Christine said, it was very much that sort of family ethos. And we did all go drinking together, and and actors would come into the show and then go out of it and come back in over the years. So it was a very, very happy time, really. We were very closely associated with the brigade. I've filmed here in this building many times, because we used to use it as the chief's office, and it actually really was the chief's office at that time. We had a wonderful fire brigade liaison called Nobby Clark, and he was a serving firefighter at that time of the rank of station officer, but he'd been seconded to the press office, so he was kind of our minder of the brigade, from the brigade's point of view. So he would actually have a massive input to everything that we did, so that he made sure that it was very accurate to proper fire brigade procedures, and that we were fair and didn't misrepresent the brigade. And incidentally, after Series 10, those last 3 series, he went, and I think that had a big effect on the series. The last 3 series didn't have his input, and so it changed, as you all know.
Yeah.
So he was a fantastic asset to the show. Worked so hard, was dedicated to it, and very often, if I would do a story and say, well, how about this? And he would say, well, that would never happen. We wouldn't do it like that. But how about this? And it would always be better. And so often you'll find that the real way of doing something is actually the better, and it can be just as dramatic. So you had these number of fantastic, strong characters who ran this show, and that's, I think, what made it the success that it was. Question.
What gave you the confidence to go from the camera to writing scripts? Had you written scripts before, or you fancied doing, or?
I had written scripts
Okay.
before, yeah. And
For TV, for TV.
Yeah, and I went to film school, and in fact, although I went into cameras directly from film school, I did nearly 10 years in cameras, it was always my aim to move across to script writing, and I think the confidence was the fact that having done 5 series on cameras, one knew that show inside out. You knew all the sets, you knew the locations, you knew the characters, you knew the fire brigade procedures. So actually, it wasn't that big a stretch to start writing them, really.
And they didn't have writing teams, they had individuals each episode, no teams?
We didn't. It's not like today where you have a writer's room.
Yeah.
There was, when I started, the first time was on series 6, there were 2 writers, David Humphries and Tony Hoare, and then I was storylining for them. And then on series 7, Tony dropped out, so it was just Dave and I. And so for 7, 8, it was just the 2 of us. So we were working incredibly hard, just churning them out. He would do one, I'd do one, I'd do the next one, he'd do the next one.
So the storyline's written for you and you just fill in the scenes, or was that the idea? Kind of?
No, we wrote the storyline. I wrote the storyline.
You said that someone did storylines and someone did script, is that?
Well, yeah, but it was me.
Yeah, right, so yeah.
Working hard.
So we were working very hard, and so what would happen is that in between series in the summer, I'd go down to Penzance where David lived and stay in a hotel, and then every day we'd get together and we'd figure out the storylines for the next series and draw up this very complicated chart and sort of graph and cross-plotted everything, because in those days we were doing probably a 10-episode series, and then actually whilst we on one of the series, I think it maybe was series 8 or maybe 9, halfway through they said we want 5 more. So we were already shooting, and we had to write 5 more, and so by then everyone was catching up with us, because it used to take about 4 weeks to write a script. It took 2 weeks to shoot it. So they were catching up, and so you had the shoot, hot on our heels.
And was the writer's side affected by the budget for the effects? Did you have to restrict it because of?
Yeah, you did, but I think again that was something about knowing the show so well, is that you knew what you could do and where you could save money without even thinking about it. You save money before it hit the page, really. So, but then things did change, and in series 10, the history of it was that London Weekend, which was the production company, got bought by Granada, and Granada immediately imposed very, very heavy budget cuts. So we had to do the same show for, I think it was like 25% less money. And so everybody noticed that the scale of the fires and the incidents and the special effects was reduced. So we were trying to do the same job for less money. And then by the end of series 10, it just became untenable. And I think that's when Paul went and I went, and a lot of the sort of core people left. And the budgets on the last 3 series were much, much lower.
Was there a particular storyline that you enjoyed writing, that was really exciting, that you really loved doing?
Well, I mean, you had the 2 sides, didn't you? In every episode, you'd have the shout, which was sometimes very big, sometimes not so big, but that was always the centerpiece. Then you'd have at least one secondary shout, which we call the B shout, and then sometimes you'd have a little funny shout. So you might have 3 separate shouts, but then you had the domestics interweaving all of that all the way through, and that's what you would plot, so that for each character you had what they'd do across the whole series, but then also what they do in each episode. You would plot that. So I don't think I could say I had a favourite. It was just about really making each episode very rich with all those different elements. And the other thing, and I know, Andrew, I've said this before, but what people often don't know is that the episodes followed the shift structure of the brigade, which you wouldn't know that if you didn't know the brigade. But actually, the duties on and the duties off were accurate in the episodes. And that was frustrating sometimes in story terms, because you wanted that to happen, but they wouldn't have been on duty. so you have to go to the domestics and then bring them back after that. I mean, it doesn't really matter that the duty structure was correct, but we kind of stuck to it.
So,
question back here.
yeah, we've got a question back here, because you can't see it down here.
Hello.
Of all the scripts that you've written, what was your favourite episode? And also, what was your favourite episode of all the episodes?
Well, actually that's two parts, because of course for half of them I was on cameras. So actually, I would say on cameras, the train crash was a great one.
Brilliant.
Which I think was series 2 or maybe 3.
Series 3.
Series 3. And that was great, because what we did there was we went up to, I think it was Peterborough, to train sidings, and the art department just got some trains and smashed them up. And then we dressed in background artists and some stunt people and our main cast into the carriages, made them all look covered in blood and beaten up. And then we had, I think, 4 or 5 cameras and just went for it. So, in other words, it wasn't the normal thing of filming where you do a little bit, then cut, move on, do another little bit. They just set the 5 cameras going, and the actors had all been briefed, you'd be over here doing this, you'd be trying to rescue him, you'd be trying to remove that casualty, and we just all rushed around filming it. So that was a very, very exciting evening. It was a night shoot, we went right through the night on that, and at the end of it, everyone was completely exhausted, but it was a very good result, I think. So that was probably the best of the shoots when I was on cameras. Writing-wise, very often it was actually, the big shouts, like when Hallam died, that was a massive shout that I wrote, and that was in a sugar factory in, I think, St Ives, or somewhere like that. And that was interesting because we knew we wanted to kill poor Sean, and we wanted it to be very dramatic, and so we knew this factory was available and empty and that we could do what we wanted with it. So we went up there and we wrote the whole thing to fit the location. Normally it's the other way around, you write something and then they find a location that matches. But here we went there, we saw what we could do, we saw there was that huge drop that we could drop him down. And so I went home and figured it all out based on the plans and the photos that we had. And I have to say, it all worked perfectly well, and we managed to shoot the whole thing with what we had, and it all worked extremely well. So I think as an exercise in the logistics of filming, that would probably be my favourite.
Was it difficult to do a stunt?
The stunt was what's known as a fan descender, where the stuntman is on a wire. It wasn't short, obviously. And he jumps and he's going down and someone is adjusting the speed of the wire at the bottom, and as he comes down they slow it down so he never actually touches the floor. They stop him just off the bottom of the floor.
Question here.
Right, yeah.
Wait, John, Stuntman. Did you write the one when we filmed at Swinderby in Lincolnshire, when we filmed at the RAF base?
With all the gas canisters exploding? Yes.
Yeah. I was there on that night because I live literally just up the road. I came to watch that big show. It was an amazing set.
Yeah.
So many things being fired.
He also said, but just to let you know, that a storyliner earns less than a cameraman. And I don't want you to be out of pocket. So what he said was, and this is a tribute to him, that when we are doing stunts or fires or effects, the normal thing is to bring in additional cameras. So you'd have your core camera crew, but you'd also bring in extra cameras, extra crew. And he said, so whenever we're doing anything like that, why don't you come in and do the cameras? So what it meant was that I was then being a camera assistant on scenes that I'd written. Which was quite weird sometimes. And I remember filming on we used to do a thing called the mini unit, which was just pickups that we hadn't got in the main shoot. And so I was brought in to do that. And we were in the locker room, doing a locker room scene, and one of the actors came up to me and asked about the line, because they knew I'd written it. The director, that was his first time on the show, he didn't know me. He was like, well, what are you asking him for? He's got the camera assistant. Yeah, so it was quite funny that was just for one series when I did both, but I think that was in the shout that you're describing. Yeah.
Amazing night. I learned a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Jaffa got burned, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Jeff did that for him. Jeff was there on that.
Yeah, Hugh Davis.
Yeah.
Simon, just one question I could ask. When the stuntman drops down, John Rose, that's you written, when you hit the ground, and all the rubber comes on top of him, how was that done?
Well, what you would do it that the stuntman was just coming down, and then you probably cut to something like here. Sean would just drop the last few feet onto the floor, and then someone would clip a load of stuff onto it.
The rubble,
It would be just polystyrene painted to look like rubble.
Simon,
Yes.
I think you could have done this whole show yourself. Ages ago now, you mentioned very interestingly about Nobby Clark and how he would, he would make how real life basically was more interesting even than what you'd written. Can you give any examples? Can you remember any scene that he changed specifically to something that worked better in the end?
Well,
I'm not trying to catch you up.
yeah, I think I might have to think about that one because, to be honest, there were so many. You know, I mean, he and I shared an office, so when we were talking about stuff, you know, it just was in the course of discussion. It wasn't like some huge, well, we must change it. We just talked it through, and so actually, probably millions of examples. But I mean, I do remember one thing, which this involved John Alford actually, where it was a laundrette where the washing machines had gone wrong, and the laundrette filled to the ceiling with foam. And the gag was that the lady was locked in the back room, I think, and John had to go in and rescue her or something. And because he was the shortest person, so the idea was that they made him do it, and so that the top of his helmet was across like Jaws going across the foam. And I wanted him to do that and walk through, and you just see his helmet go. And Nobby said, "No, we're not doing it." He stopped that. He said, "Because you couldn't breathe under the foam, so it wouldn't happen, and we're not doing it." So that is an example. And so we still did it, but he had BA on, which, and I suppose the fact that he had BA on meant that the stuntman could do it. Because that was the great thing about BA, was that you couldn't tell who was who. So a lot of those scenes where they're in BA, it's stuntmen because you can't tell the difference. And then we would just do close-ups of the visor, so you could recognise the eyes of the actual artist. And then everything was done in post-sync in terms of the sound. Yeah. Any other questions?
Simon, there's one more question. Apart from the fall, was that Martin?
Say it again?
Suppose they did the fall on Jonathan Road, was that Mark Henson?
I don't know. I can't remember who it was.
There's two stunt people in that episode, Lucy Allen and Mark Henson were the two stunt people. It was when the two stunt performers and they were involved there.
I can't remember. I don't know who it was.
I should be credited on that episode. I know the credits really well. It was Mark Henson and Jonathan Road. I'm sure of it.
Well, not often the artists have stuntmen who doubled them each time because they physical similarities. And I remember some of them. I mean, Jeff Hewitt Davis did a lot of them.
I went for Clive Good.
Yeah.
Obviously Alf at the beginning.
Well, Alf went all the way through. Alf was the stunt arranger, and he did very few stunts himself. The only one I can remember was he was an old man who almost got hit by the fire plants crossing the road. And Alf was a legendary stuntman who'd gone back to probably the 1950s, and he doubled in Superman movies and things like that. By the time we were working with him, I would say he was well into his 60s, so he was just arranging the stunts. But when he had to do this thing of walking out in front of the fire engine, it was quite amazing. He just walked out in front of the fire engine and it missed him by a foot. So he was a great character. And Peter Diamond was another one. Who
excellent
was
swordman.
Yeah, he was an arranger on the early series before Alf came on board. And Derek Ware was an arranger as well. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
We've got a question here.
Yes, okay. So that's so Lucy Allen and Mark Henson were the stunts on that show.
He's also known as Franklin Henson on some credits as well. Mark Franklin Henson.
There was a stuntman called Frank.
Yes, Frank's still. Mark's his son, yeah.
Oh, Mark's his son, yeah. Because Frank Henson did when the fire engine turned over in the Christmas special. Yeah. That was Frank. Okay.
Another question, if you look at doing stunts back in London's Burning back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, if they were doing London's Burning today, how different would that be with health and safety, with CGI, with all the rules that go around and stuff like that? Would we get, everything would be on CGI of fake fires and stuff? How has it changed dramatically over time?
Massively different. I mean, sometimes I think back and just that you go cold. Really.
Did you have a high vis on? That's important.
No, we didn't have high vis on. I mean, we did one on the Thames barrier, and it wasn't so much the stunts; it was the cameras. I mean, we were on the top of the Thames barrier with no harnesses or anything. But there was one funny incident when we were at Long Lane, which was our second studio. We did a shout where they had to rescue a steeplejack from the top of a chimney. And so what they did was they built the top of the chimney on the roof of Long Lane Studios. And everyone was around and, whoever it was at the top of the chimney. And then a man comes into reception at the studios and says, "You've got to stop that." And the receptionist says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "You're up there, you can't do that, you've got to stop it." So they called Paul Knight, and of course Paul comes out ready to take him on. He says, "What are you talking about? I can't do it, it's my studio." And he says, "Yes, but I'm the chairman of the Health and Safety Executive, and my office is just over the road." They've been there watching us doing it all morning. Brilliant. So they shut it down. But no, it's completely different now. And visual effects are used a great deal, so people don't need to do like they used to do. But with action-packed.
So, television back in the day was known for being quite groundbreaking in terms of storylines. Were there any storylines that you put on paper that you were told can't do that?
There were really, but in a way, I think the thing was that we weren't there to push back the boundaries. That wasn't our brief, and what we wanted to do was to produce a show that entertained people. I mean, we did refer to the brigade about stuff, and as Valentine said, they were pushing certain things. So they were pushing diversity. They did want more women in the brigade and things like that, and we were happy to comply with that within reason. We weren't doing propaganda for them, but at the same time, it didn't seem like a bad thing what they were saying. So, we got involved with that up to a point. I mean, there was one quite funny example of that was where the fire chief at the time wanted to have a helicopter because he knew that American fire chiefs had helicopters. Now, he wanted this. All the people in the brigade thought this was the most ridiculous idea, not least because how do you make a fire go bigger, you plan it. And so if you land a helicopter next to a fire, what's going to happen? And London is just not very suited to landing helicopters. Anyway, he wanted it, and he approached us and said, could we do a whole storyline where the brigade gets a helicopter? So we did, and there is in, I think, series 9, a whole strand about this helicopter. And we went up in it, we had fun riding around in it. But we all knew that it was just nonsense. They weren't going to get a helicopter. I mean, the police have got it. I think that's also why he wanted one, that the police have. Of course, as you all know, the fire brigade haven't got a helicopter and never did have one. So, but that was an example of where we, complied with their wish a little bit, but we knew it wouldn't happen, so we just had fun with it. And the talk around the mess room, around the mess table, was what a load of bollocks is this? That was what we had to say.
Hello, good afternoon. And, thank you to Andrew for all this. Meeting new friends. Thanks, Jeff, for the Guinness. And Kim, so forth. I wish I'd known you were a copper in my early years. I'd have behaved a lot worse.
I would have used my handcuffs on you, David.
So, London's Burning.
For Christine Shaw.
It was 1989. I don't remember a lot about it, to be honest. I remember getting, it was in those days where actors didn't have to do these stupid self-tapes and send them off with 600 other people. And I think that Colin Rodriguez basically said, do you want to do this? And I went, no. And, because I'd read it, and the first episode, I was supposed to beat up this woman, my wife. And I said, well, I don't really want to do that on the table. It's not, I live in the East End, everybody watches it. So I believe they cut the scene and they just showed her the black eye. So in the first episode, obviously I'd knocked her about. I was with a tow red called Rick, who'd just come out of prison. And then in the second episode, I beat up her brother, which was Kevin, Ross Gavin, lovely Ross. And so I was actually on British television beating up probably the most popular character in the whole of British television at the time. So I had to keep my head down for a few weeks after that. And I think after that, I got beaten up by a couple of stuntmen. They threw dust in my eyes, and then they lovely stunt. We love stuntmen. And they always say, don't worry, love, it won't hurt. I'll pull my punches. It was quite fun, because they blinded me with cement dust first and then gave me a big kicking. So that's kind of my little London's Burning journey. Somebody said earlier, was it yourself, who said, and then you disappeared. And I think I went on to do another job, but I don't really know what was happening in the script. But it was a lovely time. Ross was brilliant. He actually did take an uppercut. His tooth went through his lip, but it wasn't me, because I was trained. But yeah, a good bunch of people. I just remember it being freezing cold. It'd been snowing. And I only had a football shirt and a Levi jacket on. And Kim and I have toured together. I pride myself in knowing most of my lines, don't I, Kim? And it was one of the only times I could not remember my lines because I was so cold, shaking. And I can't remember who the director was. I think the director was in a wheelchair. I think he broke his leg or something. So it was a kind of sort of mix and match of weird and wonderful people on the set. I can't remember where the set was because it was, location outside houses, inside flats and stuff. But it was a nice job. It's just amazing that all these people here remember every second of it. And I'm struggling to remember kind of hardly any of it. And well done, everyone. It's great to see the loyalty for British television because it's gone downhill. Maybe it's coming back up, who knows? But they were the good old days. So thanks very much. Wish you all the best.
How do you follow Simon Sharkey? That's the nightmare scenario. So I did 10 series, I did about 120 odd episodes, so this could take a while. I don't really know where to start. What I've just remembered, oddly, was I was on tour in a play, Hamlet actually, in 1986, and we were in Edinburgh, and I got a call saying, Corinne Rodriguez wants you to come down to read for a part in a thing about firemen. And I said, I'm in Edinburgh, I can't be doing that, so I never went. And it was for the part of Charisma. And I've forgotten that completely. Not that is that interesting? I don't know. Shall we go with questions? Because literally I could talk about anything, anywhere, anytime. Would that be a good start?
You were one of my favourite characters, but of all the roles you played, what's your favourite?
What, in my career or in?
In your career.
Oh, I don't know where to start with that. Pierce was a biggie. I mean, for me, I just had a baby. Well, we just had a baby. And I remember bringing it home thinking, Jesus, how are we ever going to pay for this? And I got London's Burning a few months later, so it was like manna from heaven. And then they asked me to do another series, and then we had another baby, and then they asked me to do another series. So it's really entwined with my children being born and being small. So it's a lovely sort of bubble of the 90s of memories for me. So probably it's the most significant. But I think the fun of being an actor is doing different things, and it's like it's a new exam, every new job, so everything has its own interest, I think.
So as you were in pretty much every episode, what's your favourite?
Well, I've been sitting listening to that, thinking about that. You certainly do, and I think we've gone over, the death of Hallam and the cylinders flying through the air, and no one really knew where they were going to land, I might just add. You literally are running around kind of making sure that they don't land on you. I'm not sure you could even do that now. You couldn't just fire big black things in the night sky with actors and everyone running around. I actually remember the wedding, oddly enough. Pierce got married, I don't know if you got to do anything like that. And it was really funny because it's like, it becomes like a real wedding. So months before you film this, it's just another scene, isn't it, in the story. But people come up to you and go, so what are you wearing for the wedding? They do. And everyone's choosing their dresses for the wedding. It's kind of strange, it becomes sort of an event. And I actually remember that, it was a lovely sunny day, and we went off in a helicopter, didn't we? I think if I remember rightly. I remember that really vividly, actually. But I do remember very much, which Simon's already described, the death of Hallam, and it's a whole series of night shoots. I think it was near Peterborough, actually. And I remember that there's a lot of trepidation when a stuntman does a fall like that, because although it's in theory safe, there's never kind of complete, and it's the middle of the night, it's 4 in the morning, it all goes quiet, and you all stand and wait. And, I remember really clearly waiting for the guy to do the fall, which was very spectacular to see. And I think probably that, but also it's an active. Truth is, it's an active job. So quite often there are small wins that are really pleasing. And this isn't really kind of a very good anecdote, but as an actor, you just have a scene, you're given it, you have very little time to learn it because you're just knocking this stuff out all day long. But you make a decision about it and you play it and you think, actually, I think that worked quite well. I think I felt like a sort of three-dimensional human being in that scene, and that is actually really quietly satisfying, It doesn't kind of make any headlines, but you have those kind of small wins every day. You bank it and then you move on to the next scene because it just keeps coming at you if you're one of the principal characters, If you're doing a day in the or domestic day, even domestics, you're just knocking these scenes out one after another. And we used to do 2 episodes at once for a long time. So you'd be doing scenes from different episodes after each other. And you've probably only learnt it the night before, truth be told. So it's kind of an exercise in concentration, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Michael, when you joined, was Poison Pierce already the moniker? And as playing that character, did you find that you were sometimes ostracised, or did it affect your life outside because you played that sort of not one of the boys as such?
He was quite crudely written at the beginning, I think, because they wanted someone to come in and sort of be the fly in the ointment. But the problem is, they've got to sort of be able to work with everyone. They've got to sort of be one of the heroes of Blue Watch. Yet they don't want everyone just getting on with each other all the time. And Paul Knight had done Robin of Sherwood in Bristol. I think this is right, Simon, isn't it? Yeah. And he had a few problems in Bristol. So I think his homage to the West Country was to make Pierce from Bristol. I think that's fair to say. And Poison Pierce wasn't in the original script either. I think that might be Simon Sharkey's invention. Is that true?
No, actually, Poison Pierce was Tony Hawes, I think.
Okay, yeah. And you don't have very long, but all I did was I just made a decision to play, which you can do if you know you've got a few scenes, which is you don't play with it, you play against it. So he, as far as I was concerned, he was doing things that were procedurally correct, the right thing to do, calling out misbehaviour or irregularities. So he's always, in his head, the good guy. So if you play that, then what he does informs the audience about other things. So that was kind of what I went with, really. And you cross your finger and hope it works. I think it's better, because you can't play being scheming, or, it's very, very crude to, be that. The guy has to be a hero in his own narrative, even if no one else thinks so, And he sort of becomes the bloke. Everyone works with someone who sort of they can tolerate, but really don't want to sit next to when you go out for a works meal, You don't want to be at the end of the table with Jeff Pierce. And that was sort of what was in my head. And then it kind of grew, and the writers watch you, and they start writing because they know it's you. And I guess, I don't know what happens, you symbiotically becomes hopefully a little richer and a more multi-dimensional, I think.
But it didn't affect you socially?
No, it was fine. I mean, it's pretend, isn't it?
Hello, Michael. I loved Bruno, and I loved your chemistry with cling film as well. When you first got with Bruno, was he all right?
Well, Bruno was a surrogate wife because the wife left me.
Yeah.
He couldn't sit and talk to himself at home. So I think initially the dog was there really as a sort of substitute wife. If that makes sense. I'm not really a dog person, actually, to be honest.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Not at all, no. But he was a very, very sweet dog, very well trained and very easy to have around. But of course, you only see Bruno when he has to be there. So if you see me talking to Bruno and it's on me, I'm talking to usually Mickey Boyce, the prop man, kneeling on the floor. You don't use the dog unless you really have to use it. So a lot of it, he isn't actually even there. That means, sorry to kill your dreams, destroy the whole Bruno legend. But and at the end, he wasn't even the same dog. We swapped dogs for the last series or two because he didn't die, but he got too old. I don't know, arthritis, could it be, or something? I think that's quite common, isn't it, in boxers?
Yeah.
So he swapped another dog in. No one noticed.
Except he was a poodle.
And when he dies, doesn't he? Bruno die? Yeah. That's a stuffed dog in the world.
Yeah, because Pitbull had him.
Is this too raw? Is this too brutal?
Pitbull had him, didn't he? Pitbull had him for a while, and didn't he? Yeah.
When Patty's sister turns up at the house and you smash all the plates in the kitchen.
Yeah. That happened.
You smash all the plates and you throw all the plant pots over the car.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. God, yeah. Yes, that's right. All I remember that was there were supposed to be prop plates and they weren't. This is true. The director had a baby basically because you're not really supposed to smash real plates. It's dangerous. So props had to score a line on the back of the plates to make them weak, so that when I smashed them they would break. But it's quite, shouldn't really be doing that. But that's actually, doesn't he smash them in the kitchen? He smashed them in half. They're real plates. So, no eye protection or anything.
You said Patty wanted half, you're going to give her half.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Where was your favourite location to film?
It's such a big sweep of time. I don't know.
What was the most memorable then?
The place I remember is the fire station. For the Clients Bay and the yard were in the real Blackwall. What's the Docker, which is no longer, well, it's been rebuilt, as you probably know.
It's actually been flipped around.
I've been there, yeah.
I've been to the fire station recently, and walking in, it's like
no, this is supposed to be over there, not over here. They've literally flipped it a whole, like, all around. It doesn't look the same.
My memory is sort of sitting, when you're not being used, they used to put some chairs in the back, we used to sit in a semicircle. There's quite a lot of downtime. And over the years, this sort of mad alternative universe between us, like there was a phase where everything had to be described in French. Do you remember that, Simon?
Yeah.
So turtle, in Cockney, turtle doves, so turtles is gloves, but there would always be les turtles. And everyone was talking, like really weird madness goes on. It's been so, I remember that all the time. It's rather nice memory, that actually.
Who was your favourite cast member to work with?
Oh, there's a question. I couldn't possibly say, could I?
More like, who did you feel like on the on-screen scene you had the most chemistry?
I tell you who's really good is Helen, who played my wife, is a really good actress. She's really true and straightforward, and I thought I lucked out by having her cast as my wife.
Which one, the first or the second?
The second one. But it was like being in a football team, I always think. Like everyone was quite, it's sort of a cliche, but there wasn't really much side to anyone. Everyone just sort of cracked on with it, did what was required. And there was no real status games, not much anyway. There's a lot of things which you can come across, when you're working. So it was a very benevolent and kind of nice atmosphere to the large part. Because it was years and years, It was, I have very fond memories of it actually. Not that I sit around and think about it that long. I mean, the baby that I had when I started is now 34 years old.
Oh my God.
So, it feels like a lifetime ago in many respects. I'll tell you what is nice though, I know as an actor, everything's ephemeral. You do a play, the minute it finishes, it's gone forever. You do a bit of telly, it comes out, it goes like. But the notion that out there still London's burning and you're all enjoying it and it's still being watched is it's lovely actually. And probably nothing else I ever do will have any of this kind of longevity. So that's really nice, and I'm pleased that you're still enthusiastic about it. A quick round of applause. Should I stop now, or do you need some more questions?
I've got one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got one more. When you found out that Sean was going to be leaving the show, and obviously you used the centre point of that, he's dead, he was dead.
I dropped him.
Yeah, was it a shock? I mean, what was your feelings at the time you read the script and you found out that was...
Well, you know what? This sounds terribly... you just think, God, great scenes here. Bit to work on here, because it's not the normal everyday fire station stuff. You've got a really good story arc. So selfishly, it's just really good material to work on. The fact that it was leaving is really nothing to do with me or my remit. So, and you want to be the man who drops him. You don't want to be the man outside, sitting in the appliance, do you? So it was good. It was good. A bit strange at the time, but that's another story.
You said that obviously when you did the wedding thing, it became like the whole month leading up to the camera wedding. How did that compare to your actual wedding?
I've never had an actual wedding.
Oh, okay.
That's stopped in your tracks. I've had a civil partnership, if you really want to know, but that was only a year ago. I'm oversharing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, it was with a woman I've been with for 40 years, I've just got to say. But it's a technical thing, really. Are we done? We're done. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, just like to thank this gentleman here. Give him a big round of applause. Yes, everybody has attended. Like I say, I'm going to give a percentage of what I've been selling today. So if you want to come and get a bargain, I'm going to donate most of it to the Firefighters charity anyway. So if you want to come and grab some last minute stuff, and then I'm heading to Nottingham. But well done, Andrew. Thank you so much for letting me come down tonight. Very much appreciated. Thank you.